Hello. Good morning, everybody. How are you today? I'm going to wait just a couple of seconds here to give people an opportunity to get on. I'm recording a little bit earlier than usual. I have a lot of things I want to accomplish today. And I was up early this morning, earlier than I normally am, because of my good friend Cynthia Watkins. She does a Wednesday morning worship video, and she usually takes some type of a worship song and does a devotional to it. I posted her video from this morning on this Facebook page that I'm going live from. I know some of you watch these from my YouTube channel. If you're watching this video from the YouTube channel, I do want to tell you that you can watch these videos on my Facebook page. Just go to Get Clear Teachings on Facebook. You can find it pretty easily. And there's other stuff on there that you can, other resources for you besides just these particular Bible readings. So go check out Cynthia's video today and then tell me what you think about that. So for those of you who are joining one of these videos for the first time, if you are watching this on Facebook, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel to get more videos. We're going to be updating our channel here shortly. I also want to let those of you know who have been following this that yesterday we opened up a merchandise shop, and we are going to be providing you with t-shirts and coffee mugs and all sorts of merchandise that will get people motivated to learn the stories of the Bible. So many people might know a little scripture or a little verse that they've seen, something that somebody scribbled out on a meme or put on a little sticker or a poster, but they don't know the whole story. So we are going to get some merchandise out there that will explain to people that they can learn more than just a phrase from the Bible. If this is the first time that you're joining one of these videos, you need to know that what we do here is we go through the stories of the Bible. We do that because so many people really don't know the stories of the Bible. They don't know what they say. They don't know the context in which they were written. There's some hilarious stories in the Bible. There's a story of a prophet who was bald, and he was walking, and these boys started teasing him. They were teasing him for being bald. They were making fun of his bald head. So he had a bear sent to them to eat them. So the bear ate them for teasing him for being bald. Seems a little harsh, but there are some funny stories in the Bible. There are some brilliant stories, some sad stories. All of them are historical, and all of them have purpose and meaning and substance to them when you really start digging into them. We are going through the story right now of David. David has become king, and we're actually going to read 2 chapters today. Normally we just do one, but we've got 2 short ones. We're going to read 2 Samuel chapter 8 and 2 Samuel chapter 9. Now, if you remember, David has been living in the palace now. He's ruling as king, and, things have been pretty peaceful, but there are also some battles that are going to come up. And if you remember, after Saul died, after Jonathan died, after Saul's sons died, there was one little boy, Jonathan's son, named Mephibosheth, and his nanny was running with him to get away from this battle that was encroaching upon them. And while she was running away with him, he was about 5 years old, he stumbled, and from that moment on, he became disabled. And we're going to talk about what happened to him today. But let's start with chapter 8. After this, David defeated the Philistines, subdued them, and took Metheg-ammah from Philistine control. He also defeated the Moabites, and after making them lie down on the ground, he measured them off with a cord. He measured every 2 cord lengths of those to be put to death, and 1 full length of those to be kept alive. So the Moabites became David's subjects and brought tribute. David also defeated Hadadezer, son of Rehob, king of Jobaz, When he went to restore his control of the Euphrates River, David captured 1,700 horsemen and 20,000 foot soldiers from him, and he hamstrung all the horses and kept 100 chariots. When the Arameans of Damascus came to assist King Hadadezer of Jobah, David struck down 22,000 Aramean men. Then he placed garrisons in Aram of Damascus, and the Arameans became David's subjects and brought tribute. The Lord made David victorious wherever he went. David took the gold shields of Hadadezer's officers and brought them to Jerusalem. King David also took huge quantities of bronze from Betah and Berothai, Hadadezer's cities. When King Tou of Hamath heard that David had defeated the entire army of Hadadezer, he sent his son Joram to King David to greet him and to congratulate him, because David had fought against Hadadezer and had defeated him. For Tou and Hadadezer had fought many wars. Joram had items of silver, gold, and bronze with him. King David also dedicated those to the Lord, along with the silver and gold he had dedicated from the nations he had subdued, from Edom, Moab, and the Ammonites, the Philistines, the Amalekites, and the spoil of Hadadezer, son of Rahab, king of Zobah. These are hard names to pronounce, people. David made a reputation for himself when he returned from striking down 18,000 Edomites in Salt Valley. He placed garrisons throughout Edom, and all the Edomites were subject to David. The Lord made David victorious wherever he went. So David reigned over all Israel, administering justice and righteousness for all the people. Joab, son of Zeruiah, was over the army. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was court historian. Zadok, son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, son of Abiathar, were priests. Seraiah was court secretary. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were chief officials. You know, somewhere in there I keep expecting to have to say the word termites. Anyway, that was chapter 8. We're going to talk about that very quickly, but let's get through chapter 9 first. David asked, "Is there anyone remaining from the family of Saul I can now show kindness to for Jonathan's sake?" There was a servant of Saul's family named Ziba. They summoned him to David, and the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" "I am your servant," he replied. So the king said, "Is there anyone left of Saul's family that I can show the kindness of God to?" Ziba said to the king, "There is still Jonathan's son, who was injured in both feet." The king asked him, "Where is he?" Ziba answered the king, "You'll find him in Lo Debar at the house of Machir, son of Ammiel." So King David had him brought from the house of Machir, son of Ammiel, in Lobar. Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, son of Saul, came to David, fell face down, and paid homage. David said, "Mephibosheth." "I am your servant," he replied. "Don't be afraid." David said to him, "Since I intended to show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan, I will restore to you all your grandfather Saul's fields, and you will always eat meals at my table." Mephibosheth paid homage and said, "What is your servant that you take an interest in a dead dog like me?" Then the king summoned Saul's attendant Ziba and said to him, "I have given to your master's grandson all that belonged to Saul and his family. You, your sons, and your servants are to work the ground for him, and you are to bring in the crops so your master's grandson will have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master's grandson, is always to eat at my table." Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Ziba said to the king, "Your servant will do all my lord the king commands." So Mephibosheth ate at David's table just like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah. All those living in Ziba's house were Mephibosheth's servants. However, Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem because he always ate at the king's table. His feet had been injured. So that was 2 Samuel 9. There are 3 ways that we look at Scripture when we read it. What does it say? We have to have reading comprehension. If we don't read the words on the page, we don't know what these stories say. We also need to know what was it saying to the people of the time. What was the history? What was the culture? What's the backstory? We have to take everything into context. We can't just pull out a little verse and think we know the entire story. And last, what, if anything, is it saying to us today? So what did we just read? We read that in chapter 8, we see that David keeps defeating these different groups of people, and he ends up becoming, they become subjects of his. But I find this one part very interesting. It says he also defeated the Moabites, and after making them lie down, so he takes these Moabite people, he makes them lie down on the ground, and he measures them off. He measured every 2 cord lengths. So every time he measured 2 cord lengths, anybody that fell within that measurement was killed. And then he'd measure 1 cord length, and they got to live. And he kept those alive, and they became his subjects. And he keeps going through this. Well, he comes across this one guy. This guy's name is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Toi. And he had defeated Hadadezer, David had. And Toi and Hadadezer had many battles, and Toi is very glad that he's defeated him. So David gets all of this, throughout these battles, he gets some plunder and he gets silver and things like that, and he takes it and he dedicates it to God. One of the things that David was very good about is he always gave God credit for everything. He didn't do anything without consulting with the Lord first. And because of that, God continued to bless him in all of his endeavors. And God wanted Israel to grow and become a great nation. And so he blessed all of David's efforts. And those that went against David didn't fare very well. So we find out that David's ruling and things are going very well. He's bringing stuff into the house of the Lord. And one day, he's thinking probably about Jonathan. Now, do you remember he had made a covenant with Jonathan, Saul's son? They were best buds. They were brothers from another mother. They were BFFs. And he had made a covenant with Jonathan that they would be friends forever. He would always honor Jonathan. And after Jonathan's death, David was just very grieved. I mean, he lost his best friend. How many of you have ever been sad and somebody says to you, you look like you lost your best friend? Well, David really did. He lost Jonathan. So he no doubt was sitting around thinking about Jonathan one day as he's in his palace. And he says, is there anybody from Saul's house left? Is there anybody that's alive? And he finds out that Jonathan's son, his youngest son, Mephibosheth, which is a hard name to pronounce, is actually still alive, and he's living somewhere else. Remember, he had become disabled. He became lame. His feet got crippled during the war. And he says, well, go send for him. And so these are many years have gone by, because Mephibosheth was about 5 years old when this happened to him during the war. But now he's a grown man, and David has him brought to the palace, and he's probably thinking, oh my goodness, he's going to kill me just like the rest of my family. But he doesn't. Instead, he restores everything to him. He gives him his grandfather's fields, and he's kind to him for Jonathan's sake. So it's a beautiful story of friendship. And the cool thing is that in all of that, Mephibosheth gets to he gets to eat all the time. He stays in Jerusalem, even though his wealth, if you will, his business, if you will, is being tended to somewhere else by other people that David is paying. Mephibosheth gets to eat at the king's table for the rest of his life, every meal. That's pretty cool, you know. It says to me, remember I told you the things of the Old Testament point to the things of the New Testament. It reminds us that even though we may have problems in this life, Jesus is going to take care of us. And he's always looking for, is there anybody out there that still loves me? Is there anybody out there who thinks about me? Are there any of my sheep out there that might be lost that I can bring in to my household, that I can feed, that I can tend to, that I can take care of? Jesus treats us like David treated Mephibosheth. He loves us and he takes care of us just because we are. Not because of anything that we did, not because of how powerful we are, how mighty we are. Mephibosheth really couldn't do much for David. He was lame in his feet, it says. They had been injured. And sometimes we are wounded people, but Jesus is always going to take care of us if we let him. So that's today's reading. I encourage you to go check out some of the other links on this page to get some merchandise, get your coffee mug, get your t-shirt from the Do You Know collection, and support this ministry that we have going on. I hope you learned something today. I hope you have a great day, and God bless you.